This is a Fox News alert. New developments on a dust-up in the White House as two top-level officials appear to be taking their feud public. Welcome to a brand new hour of America's Newsroom. If you pause for a second, you will miss something. I'm Shannon Bream.
Yes, you shall. Morning, Shannon. I'm Bill Hemmer. Good morning at home, too. Is the new communications director, Anthony Scaramucci, calling out the chief of staff, Reince Priebus, a week into the job about leaks from the White House. At one point, suggesting perhaps the burden of proof is on Priebus to show his innocence. An anonymous source at the White House telling Fox News a bit earlier today the following, quote, "One of the worst things you can do to President Trump is to show insecurity. Sessions showed that. Reince has showed that," end quote. First, though, here's Kellyanne Conway a bit earlier today on all of this.
We're avoiding the elephant in the room. Is Reince Priebus the big leaker?
I'm not aware of the latter. I will just tell you, I think leakers are easier to figure out than they may think.
All right, so let's bring in Brett Baer, anchor special report on a swirling morning in Washington, D.C. Good to see you, Brett.
Hey, Shannon.
Okay, so some of this started with these tweets that came from Anthony Scaramucci where he talks about leakers, and he included @Reince45. And then he was pushed on that, and speculation, are you saying Reince is one of the leakers? Then he says, well, no. Then this is what he told CNN this morning.
When I put out a tweet and I put Reince's name in the tweet, they're all making the assumption that it's him because journalists know who the leakers are. So if Reince wants to explain that he's not a leaker, let him do that. But let me tell you something about myself. I am a straight shooter, and I'll go right to the heart of the matter.
What do you make of it, Brett?
I think that there is trouble in River City when it comes to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, and there is a shakeup likely coming. Clearly, there are factions inside the White House going after each other. This started, or this particular dust-up started, when Politico ran a story about Scaramucci's financial disclosures. Then he tweeted, as you just mentioned, that he was going to the FBI. Politico came back, and it turns out that the financial disclosures could be released publicly based on when he was with XM Bank, and there's about a month lead time, and July 23rd, those disclosures were public to anyone who asked for them. And so until you found out, you know, the allegation of leaking, I think that there are real questions about how this is going down. Clearly, Reince Priebus is in the spotlight, under fire, and he is... we don't know if we'll hear from him today, but clearly Scaramucci also said that the president has kind of authorized this kind of talk about his own chief of staff.
It's interesting because we know from covering this through the campaign and now at the beginning of the presidency to this point, 6-7 months in, that there have been those who felt like there are very clear camps, those that are more establishment and RNC, the Spicers, the Reinces, those guys, and the bunch that says we're the ones who got him to the White House. We do things unconventionally. We're not politicians. You know, we've got a different strategy. And it seems like we may be reaching a breaking point between those two sides.
Yeah, and I think that there is this want to go back to the team that was at the beginning, you know, the team that was successful on the campaign trail that, you know, can suddenly come together and be successful again. Here's the problem, is that Washington is different than running a campaign. Governing is different, and to be able to pull the levers of the bureaucracy and know where the skeletons are buried up on Capitol Hill and know how to get things across the finish line, sometimes that takes a wise Washington hand. And as you know, as unattractive as that is to say, it sometimes helps a White House operate more effectively.
I want to make sure that we touch on health care because that's the big story of the day there in the Senate. Continues to be as they head into some action, we think, late today, early in the morning tomorrow, Friday morning. You guys have done late night shows and special report all week tracking this.
Another one tonight.
Okay, excellent. Now, you'll be there for every twist and turn, but what we have that we think now as part of this skinny repeal idea is the idea that it would end Obamacare's individual mandate, the employer mandate. It would abolish that Obamacare tax on medical devices that both sides of the aisle have said they want to get rid of. It may make some other cuts in the Prevention and Public Health Fund. Nobody really seems to know, but there seems to be an appetite for getting some measure done so they can get into conference with the House.
Yeah, so this skinny repeal is basically a vehicle. And then tonight, they're going to start this vote-a-rama, and they're going to vote on all of these amendments, one after the other. The Democrats are not putting forward amendments, saying that they're not going to get involved until the repeal idea is over. But so you're putting this vehicle, and then all these things are being pinned on the vehicle to make it more attractive to Republicans overall. They have to get 50 votes. And tonight, this will start this rolling vote on amendments very quickly without debate. By the way, Shannon, today, a special report will be live at the White House, covering all of the back and forth there. Then tonight at 11 p.m. Eastern Time, we'll be live on Capitol Hill for the vote-a-rama and all the votes that are happening on the health care bill. So there's a lot happening in Washington.
Yeah, and you're right in the middle of the action for all of the biggest stories of the day, and including, I want to ask you about Attorney General Jeff Sessions, because it's interesting that when it's noted that Reince may be on tenuous ground because he showed insecurity, that's mentioned with respect to the Attorney General as well. Do we think he survives this latest roller coaster ride?
He says that he's staying on, but he's talking to Tucker Carlson tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and I expect to hear a lot out of that interview. Every indication that we have is that Sessions intends to stay, and the real question is whether the president intends to do something else and fire him more than what we've seen so far. This is a White House that is trying to get its feet under it, its sea legs, and there are going to be some major shifts possibly this summer ahead of a fall push for tax reform.
Well, it seems to me between now and when we see you at 6 p.m. and then again at 11, there are going to be a lot of news developments, so we'll see you then, Brett.
All right.
Thank you.